The alliance between Russia and North Korea has taken a dangerous turn, creating ripples not just for Ukraine but for the stability of the Russian military itself. With over 10,000 North Korean soldiers enlisted into the Russian army, expectations soared, painting them as a potential game changer. Yet this grand gamble quickly turned into a disaster. Ukraine, in a single devastating strike, eliminated 500 North Korean troops, shaking the battlefield. Adding to this turmoil, widespread desertions and surrenders by North Korean forces became a grim hallmark of the conflict. The latest controversy? A shocking error on the part of these inexperienced soldiers. They attacked Chin troops, another foreign contingent fighting under Vladimir Putin's command. This unexpected clash between allies sent shockwaves through the Russian front. How did this blunder unfold? What does it reveal about the dynamics among these foreign forces? Stay tuned as we dive deep into these questions and uncover the truth in today's video. North Korean troops have become a striking presence in the battles raging within the KSK region, but their actions are far from strengthening Russia's front. In a shocking incident, a group of North Korean soldiers stationed in KSK Oblast mistakenly opened fire on members of the Chin Akhma unit, a pro-Russian group fighting for Putin. According to Ukraine's military intelligence, this friendly fire attack resulted in the elimination of 8 Russian soldiers aligned with the Ahmed Battalion. Notably, the Ahmed Battalion itself reported no casualties, raising questions about how this mishap unfolded and how it will impact Putin's fragile alliance. So, what led North Korean troops to attack their supposed allies? Ukrainian intelligence attributes this to a language barrier between Russian and North Korean forces. The breakdown in communication led to a chaotic scene where North Korean troops fired indiscriminately, hitting both Russian and Chin forces. This tragic error underscores the disarray within Putin's coalition and has added a layer of irony to an already dire situation. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky highlighted this blunder as yet another sign of the crumbling partnership between Putin and Kim Jong-un. Recent reports reveal devastating losses for their combined forces, with nearly 200 soldiers from Russian and North Korean contingents killed in a single day, December 14th. Zelensky had previously alluded to mounting casualties among North Korean troops, and these new figures from Ukrainian intelligence solidify his warnings. What does this growing chaos mean for the course of the war? Stay with us as we explore the deeper implications. But was miscommunication the only challenge faced by North Korean troops? The answer lies deeper in the unique flaws of their command structure, a system designed less for battlefield efficiency and more for preventing a military coup. The North Korean military operates under a rigid hierarchy where every significant decision must pass through layers of political oversight. Political commissars hold the power to approve or deny military actions, creating a bureaucracy that hampers responsiveness in fast-moving conflict zones. This structure isn't just inefficient, it is also heavily restrictive. A commander can only issue basic daily orders, while any critical directives must gain approval from both political commissars and a military police representative. Even promotions require a staggering 5 signatures. In the chaos of war, such delays can be disastrous. Whether North Korea's leadership will adapt this system to the realities of the Ukrainian battlefield remains uncertain, though any such reforms would likely need Kim Jong-un's explicit authorization. The rigidity of this system underscores the broader challenges North Korean forces face as they navigate a war far from their homeland. North Korean troops deployed against Ukraine's battle-hardened forces are facing another significant challenge: inexperience. Their ability to counter modern warfare tactics, such as drone combat, remains highly questionable. This lack of preparedness is raising eyebrows not only in Ukraine, but also within Russia. While Ukrainian authorities have highlighted these shortcomings, Russia has maintained a telling silence, an all-too-familiar pattern where officials avoid addressing setbacks on the battlefield. Throughout the war, Russia has demonstrated a pattern of rapidly training and deploying individuals with minimal skills to fill its ranks. This approach has included utilizing prisoners or individuals with histories of substance abuse, reflecting a reliance on recruits deemed expendable. In this context, the integration of North Korean soldiers aligns seamlessly with Russia's existing military practices. From Moscow's perspective, these North Korean troops are a convenient asset. Already possessing basic military training, they save Russia both time and resources. Instead of building their skills from the ground up, Russian commanders can assign them straightforward yet essential tasks, such as trench digging or operating basic communication equipment. However, this potential advantage has been squandered. Rather than equipping North Korean soldiers with even minimal battlefield skills, Russia appears to deploy them directly into high-risk combat scenarios, treating them as little more than cannon fodder in its increasingly desperate war effort. So why does Kim Jong-un allow his soldiers to be used as expendable assets? The deployment of North Korean troops alongside Russian forces in Ukraine marks an unprecedented moment in the country's history. North Korea has never before engaged in a foreign military intervention, and such a bold move carries potentially serious consequences. The primary reason for Pyongyang's historical restraint is rooted in the regime's fear of exposing its soldiers to foreign influence. Sending troops abroad risks shattering the tightly controlled narrative maintained within North Korea. Soldiers might begin questioning the stark contrast in living standards between North Korea and its neighbors. Why other countries enjoy greater prosperity, why military service in those nations is brief compared to North Korea's extended conscription, or why items considered unattainable luxuries back home are commonplace elsewhere. These realizations could destabilize the ideological control Kim Jong-un relies upon to maintain power. Pyongyang harbors a genuine fear that returning soldiers might consider their true patriotic duty to be an armed rebellion against the regime. This fear is not baseless. Back in 1992, North Korea narrowly averted a military coup led by officers who had been trained in Moscow during the Perestroika era. So why is Kim Jong-un now willing to take the risk of deploying troops to Russia? The reasoning behind this decision likely transcends the shared anti-Western rhetoric of Moscow and Pyongyang. Despite appearances, North Korea's political structure is not deeply ideological. While the regime is built around the cult of Kim's personality, Kim Jong-un has historically favored pragmatism in foreign policy. Sending troops to Russia offers minimal immediate benefits to Pyongyang, as North Korea has already been receiving payments in return for essential supplies like food, oil, and ammunition. Instead, this decision may reflect a strategic gamble with long-term implications rather than an ideological alignment with Moscow. Naturally, North Korea aims to gain access to advanced nuclear and aerospace technology from Russia, but for now, Moscow appears reluctant to share such capabilities. Instead, Kim Jong-un views this military alliance as a strategic, long-term investment. Since the Soviet Union ceased economic aid in 1990, Pyongyang has sought to rekindle the prosperous relationship it once enjoyed during the Cold War, where Soviet resources flowed generously. While North Korea has struggled to achieve this, the deployment of its troops to Ukraine signals that it is closer than ever to realizing this ambition. By providing military support, Pyongyang is deepening its ties with Moscow, banking on a future alliance that endures even after Russia no longer needs North Korean assistance in Ukraine. These strengthened ties extend beyond military collaboration, encompassing areas like trade, tourism, student exchanges, and sending labor forces to Russia. According to South Korean intelligence, the troops North Korea is dispatching are elite special forces, better trained and equipped than regular infantry. On paper, they seem poised to bolster Russia's offensive operations in Ukraine. However, reports from the battlefield reveal that their actual impact remains limited, with their supposed advantages proving mostly theoretical. Outside the battlefield, the growing partnership between Russia and North Korea faces potential resistance from key players like South Korea or China. For now, however, Beijing remains indifferent. In late October, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Andrei Rudenko visited Beijing for talks with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi. At the same time, North Korean Foreign Minister Choi Soo-nu was in Russia, symbolizing the deepening ties between Moscow and Pyongyang. Despite these developments, China has refrained from commenting on the presence of North Korean troops in Russia, simply stating that it has no information on the matter. The United States has actively sought China's intervention to halt North Korea's deployment of troops to Russia, arguing that Beijing might also find such escalations troubling. Nevertheless, China's stance has remained consistent, advocating for de-escalation and a political resolution to the conflict. During a recent meeting in Peru between U.S. President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping, the issue was raised again, but China's position did not shift, underscoring its reluctance to take a definitive stance on the Russia-North Korea alliance. China has refrained from penalizing North Korea for its involvement in the Russia-Ukraine war. While bilateral trade dipped in the early months of 2024 compared to 2023, it peaked in October, suggesting resilience. The July trade decline was likely due to severe floods in North Korea rather than political fallout. Despite speculation that Beijing might repatriate the 100,000 North Korean workers in retaliation for Pyongyang's closer ties with Moscow, this did not occur. China's June alliance agreement with Russia and its economic reliance on cheap North Korean labor, particularly in border provinces, were key factors. Sending these workers back would have severely impacted local economies. In October, China even accepted North Korean workers in defiance of international sanctions, ensuring the continuity of trade relations. Minor tensions, such as North Korea banning Chinese media domestically or opposing China's telecommunications projects near their border, have not prompted punitive actions from Beijing. The understated celebration of the 75th anniversary of China-North Korea diplomatic ties reflects a focus on stable, long-term cooperation under evolving geopolitical conditions rather than any significant rift. In Peru, Xi Jinping warned Joe Biden that China would not remain passive if its security interests on the Korean peninsula were threatened. However, Beijing sees no need to penalize North Korea for deploying troops to Russia. This action does not clash with China's policy of no war, no instability, no nuclear weapons, as the conflict is distant from Northeast Asia. North Korea's involvement under the guise of Russian military uniforms is perceived as economically motivated rather than a direct provocation against South Korea or the United States. Recent North Korean activities, such as dismantling inter-Korean roads, building walls in the demilitarized zone, or sending balloons with garbage over the border, are considered more symbolic than escalatory. Even the recent test of the Hwang-19 intercontinental ballistic missile did not cross China's red line of nuclear testing. While there is speculation that Russia might share military technology with North Korea, Beijing's primary concern is maintaining stability along its borders. Given that North Korea's actions respect this boundary, China has no compelling reason to intervene. Moreover, China's alliance with North Korea is regionally limited to the Far East, and it does not share a formal alliance with Russia, reinforcing its measured stance. This suggests that even if the joint Russian-North Korean forces fail to achieve their objectives in the Ukraine war, China will remain unaffected by North Korea's actions in Russia. Concerns that Russia's influence might grow at China's expense are overblown. In 2023, China accounted for 98% of North Korea's trade, reflecting a deep economic interdependence. Unlike during the Cold War, China and Russia are not engaged in direct competition, reducing the likelihood of Beijing perceiving Moscow's moves as a threat. In fact, Russia's provision of critical resources to North Korea could alleviate some of the strain on China, which has long supported Pyongyang. Additionally, China's ongoing efforts to mediate a peace plan for the Russia-Ukraine war encourage Beijing to downplay its ties with North Korea, allowing it to maintain a facade of neutrality and sidestep Western pressure to curb Pyongyang. Despite these dynamics, the relationship between China and North Korea remains robust, characterized by enduring cooperation and mutual strategic interests. Russia's pivot to China intensified after Western sanctions in 2014 and the 2022 Ukraine invasion, redirecting trade and energy exports to Asia. By 2023, bilateral trade hit a record $240 billion, surpassing the $200 billion goal set by Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping for 2024. This marked a dramatic rise from 2018 levels, showcasing deep economic ties. China now leads as Russia's primary energy buyer and supplier of manufactured goods. In 2023, Chinese exports to Russia surged 47% to $111 billion, including vehicles and machinery, while Russian exports, mainly oil, gas, and metals, grew by 12.7% to $129 billion. However, this trade highlights an imbalance. Russia depends on raw material exports, whereas China dominates with high-value goods. This asymmetry underscores Russia's growing reliance on China, reflecting a relationship that is economically significant but unequal. Russia's growing dependence on China has sparked tensions, with some analysts likening it to vassalage. Moscow relies heavily on Chinese trade to sustain its economy, but disputes arise. In late 2023, Russian customs reclassified Chinese furniture components, imposing a steep tariff increase from 0% to 55.65%. This move, affecting 90% of these imports, led to protests from Russian manufacturers warning of higher costs and potential bankruptcies. Beijing has not officially responded, but the tariff hike is seen as a betrayal and could provoke retaliatory measures, highlighting the fragile balance in the Russia-China economic relationship. China's relationship with Russia is one of controlled engagement. Beijing values Moscow as a counterbalance to Western influence and a source of cheap resources, but prefers a weakened Russia to maintain dominance in bilateral ties. A Chinese scholar aptly described Russia as often playing the savior of nations, only to later exploit them. This dynamic reflects a utilitarian, not egalitarian, partnership. While their alignment against the West serves both countries strategically, the relationship is fraught with mutual suspicion, historical grievances, and power imbalances. The China-Russia axis persists as long as it is mutually beneficial, but its future depends on whether they can navigate the deep-rooted tensions that characterize this uneasy alliance. South Korea's reaction to the Moscow-Pyongyang partnership could be significant. Seoul fears that North Korea might acquire advanced Russian military technology, which could later be used against the South. However, this alliance also presents an opportunity for Seoul to gather intelligence on its longtime adversary, a challenging task since North Korea's pandemic border closures. Ukrainian forces are likely to capture North Korean soldiers on the battlefield, providing South Korea with a potential chance to gain military insights through cooperation with Kyiv. Signs of this collaboration are emerging, as seen when Ukraine's UN representative mistakenly identified North Korean generals, a possible result of South Korean intelligence translations. Seoul's concerns are valid. Kim Jong-un's regime has grown increasingly unpredictable, breaking taboos such as abandoning peaceful unification in 2024. While these changes might not lead to immediate instability in Pyongyang, they underline the precariousness of the regime. What are your thoughts on this matter? Share them in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and stay tuned for more updates.